One of the hardest parts of learning to code isn't knowing what to learn next. It's knowing when you're actually ready to move on. Maybe you're wondering if you know enough JavaScript to start React, or enough Python to start building, or enough HTML and CSS so you can move into JavaScript. At some point, almost every beginner runs into the same question. How do I know when I've learned enough? And here's the first thing I want you to know. Feeling ready is not part of the test. Because if you wait until you feel completely confident before moving forward, you might be waiting forever. So in this video, I'm going to give you a simple 3-level test you can use on almost anything you're learning in programming. And by the end, you should be able to look at whatever you're studying right now and answer one question. Do I keep learning this, or is it time to move on? And the funny thing is, the most important part of that test has almost nothing to do with remembering syntax. It has to do with whether you can look at a problem and know what kind of tool you need. Why feeling ready doesn't work. I think a lot of beginners imagine that learning works like this. Learn something, understand it, practice it, feel confident, move on. Nice and clean, right? Except confidence doesn't really work like that. The more programming you learn, the more things you discover that you don't know. You learn HTML and suddenly there's CSS. You learn CSS and JavaScript appears. You start JavaScript and somehow APIs, asynchronous code, frameworks, databases, and another 400 things joins the party. The list just gets longer while you're getting better. It's like walking toward the horizon. You keep moving forward and the horizon keeps moving with you. And I definitely didn't understand this when I started. I remember learning HTML with a physical notepad next to me. Every day, I'd open a fresh page and try to write the whole structure from memory. Where each line should go, which tag opens first, which one closes next. How everything was supposed to be arranged. I was basically trying to memorize the code perfectly before I gave myself permission to move on to the next chapter. And if I couldn't, I would watch the same lesson again, then again, and then try again the next day. I did this for months. Looking back, it was probably one of the biggest wastes of time in my entire learning journey, really. Because I was measuring progress by, can I remember this perfectly? Instead of, do I actually understand what I'm doing? And even after years of programming professionally, I still look things up all the time. I still forget syntax. I still run into things I've never seen before. And believe me, that never really disappears. What changes is that you can get much better at knowing what you need. That's what you should be measuring instead. The 3 levels. Whenever you're learning something in programming, I want you to think about 3 levels. Level 1, I understand it. Let's use loops as a simple example. You watch someone explain a loop. You understand why it exists. Instead of writing the same thing again and again, you can let the loop repeat it for you. Great, but there's a trap here. Understanding someone else's explanation can feel almost exactly like knowing it yourself. It isn't. You've probably watched somebody solve a coding problem and thought, oh, of course, that makes sense, that makes perfect sense. Then you open a blank editor 5 minutes later and nothing. Your brain has apparently gone for lunch by that point. So understanding matters, but it's only level 1. Level 2, I can use it. Now you try it yourself. Maybe you remember exactly how to write the loop, maybe you don't. Maybe you ask Google, maybe you open the documentation, or maybe you ask ChatGPT, remind me how this works. That's completely fine. Needing help does not mean that you haven't learned it. Real developers look things up all the time. I definitely do. What matters is that you're starting to know what you're looking for. If I give you a problem and you think, I need to repeat this for every item, and then you look up the exact syntax, that's progress. But there's still one more level, and this is the one that matters the most. Level 3, I can choose it. Imagine I give you a list of 100 names and say, print every name on the screen. That's it. Nobody tells you this is a loop exercise, there's no chapter called loops, there's no instructor pointing at the answer. You have to look at the problem and think, I need to do the same thing for every item. A loop would make sense here. That is the moment I'm looking for, because now you're not just using a tool somebody handed you, you're choosing the tool because you understand the problem. And that's where things actually starts to click. The same thing happens everywhere. You look at a web page and think these elements need to be sitting next to each other. Maybe I should use CSS Flexbox. You look at a Python problem and think I need to do this for every item in the list. You get further into JavaScript and think I only need the products that cost under $20. I probably need something like filter. You might still forget the syntax, you might still need Google, and that's okay. Because you don't move on when you stop needing Google. You move on when you know what to Google. That's the difference between remembering code and start to think like a programmer, where people get stuck. And this is where you can accidentally lose weeks. You understand the topic, you can even use it with a little help, but because you still need that help, you think, I clearly haven't learned this properly. So you go back, another tutorial, another course, more notes. What you need here isn't another explanation. You need a small problem where nobody tells you which tool to use. Because that's how you find out whether you actually understand it or you've just been following along. The test. So here's the test. Whatever you're learning right now, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, SQL, anything, ask. Do I understand it? Can I use it even with some help? Can I recognize when I actually need it? If yes to all three, move on. Not because you've mastered it, but because you know enough for the next step. Moving on doesn't mean you're done. And this part matters. Moving on doesn't mean I'm finished with loops forever or I completed JavaScript. I don't even know what completing JavaScript looks like, really. Moving on just means I'm ready to meet the concept again in a harder situation. Because programming doesn't really work like learn it once, master it, done. It looks more like learn, use, build, find a gap, come back, learn more. You keep meeting the same concepts again and again, just at a deeper level. So moving on doesn't mean you're done. It just means you're ready for the next layer. And this is actually one of the reasons I like the way Scrimba teaches programming. This video is sponsored by Scrimba, and it actually fits this idea really well. The lesson and the code editor live together right inside your browser. So instead of just watching, you can pause, change the code, try the challenge yourself, and immediately see what happens. Their AI can also check your solution and show you what went wrong. That pushes you from I understand this to can I actually use it? Scrimba has many free courses. If you sign up with my link below, you will grab an extra 20% off their pro plans anytime you want to upgrade later. Now, what if you take the test and realize you're actually not ready to move on? What if you're not ready? Good. Seriously, because now you know where the problem actually is. Let's say you understand loops, but the moment I give you a small problem, you freeze. Don't immediately go, alright, back to lesson 1. No. Instead, ask, what exactly am I missing here? Maybe the loops is not the problem. Maybe arrays are. Maybe you know CSS, but layout still feels confusing. Find the gap, learn that, practice it, then try again. That's much more useful than restarting an entire course every time something feels difficult. And this is one of the main reasons building projects is so important. Projects expose your gaps, and those gaps tell you what to learn next. What about AI? And yes, AI changes this a little, but not as much as you might think. There's a huge difference between asking AI, remind me how this works, and build this for me. If AI helps you remember syntax, understand an error, or explain something you're already wrestling with, great. But if AI makes every decision for you and you couldn't explain why it chose that solution, then you skip the part you're actually trying to learn. The goal isn't to prove that you can code without AI. The goal is to make sure AI isn't doing all the thinking for you. So if you're sitting there wondering, should I start React? Should I stop this course? Should I finally build something? Do I know enough Python? Stop waiting to feel ready, my friend. Instead, ask, do I understand it? Can I use it even with some help? Can I recognize when I should use it? If yes, move on. You will forget things, you will Google things, you will come back, you will get stuck. None of that means you moved too early. That's programming. You're not supposed to know everything before taking the next step. You just need to know enough to solve the next problem. And very often, that next problem is exactly what will show you what you need to learn next. So tell me in the comments, what are you learning right now and which of the 3 levels are you at? And if you're ready to move on, but you're still not sure what you should actually learn next, watch this video. Thanks for watching, you legends. I'm Pete and I'll see you on the next one.